what's fast lap?
It's a 16.6. It was a first lap on it.
Don't give a with V10. Just execution.
Okay, and then when the track...
Did it, GP? Mission 8.
What are you? Hold on, my friend.
Max Verstappen just lost his right-hand man. But this isn't a simple resignation. It is a calculated corporate assassination. Gianpiero Lambiase, the voice in Max's ear, the man who engineered multiple world titles, has defected to McLaren. While casual fans focus on the loss of their dramatic radio chatter, Zak Brown has quietly executed the most ruthless poaching strategy in F1 history. Red Bull is in an unmitigated freefall. Let's look at the sheer managerial incompetence that allowed this to happen. The multi-million-dollar body count. To understand the magnitude of this defection, you have to look past the radio bromance. Yes, GP was the only man on Earth who could tell Max Verstappen to shut up and drive. He wasn't just an engineer, he was Max's emotional anchor, but that anchor has just been permanently severed. GP is heading to Woking to become McLaren's chief racing officer by 2028. And the terrifying part, this isn't an isolated incident, it's a systemic bleed-out. Let's look at the body count, because it is staggering. First, they lost Adrian Newey, the aerodynamic god, the man who literally designed the flaw that made the RB19 invincible. Then, sporting director Jonathan Wheatley walked out the door. Wheatley was the muscle. He was the guy who ensured Red Bull's pit crew was the fastest in history and navigated the darkest loopholes of the FIA rulebook. Then came engineering boss Rob Marshall, the foundation of their technical operations. Then strategy chief Will Courtney, the chess master, who constantly outsmarted Ferrari and Mercedes on the pit wall. And now, Lambiase. You have lost your designer, your sporting director, your chief engineer, your head strategist, and your star driver's right-hand man. This isn't just a string of bad luck. This is the direct result of a fractured, toxic leadership structure that is actively driving its smartest minds out the door. Zak Brown's masterclass in sabotage. While Red Bull management points fingers internally, Zak Brown is playing 4D chess. This isn't random hiring. McLaren is systematically cannibalizing the exact foundation that made Red Bull untouchable. They didn't just target anyone, they targeted the architects. Brown saw the blood in the water. He watched the internal politics at Milton Keynes spiral out of control and realized he didn't have to outdevelop Red Bull in the wind tunnel if he could simply buy the brains operating it. Look at the timeline. He brings in Rob Marshall, and suddenly McLaren's upgrades are bulletproof. He secures Will Courtney to fix McLaren's historically shaky race execution. Now, he is taking Gianpiero Lambiase to act as a senior right-hand man to team principal Andrea Stella, completely supercharging their trackside operations. Brown isn't just trying to beat Red Bull on the track, he is aggressively weaponizing Red Bull's internal chaos to build a leaner, meaner McLaren. He is offering these key figures something Red Bull currently cannot: stability, a unified management structure, and zero toxic political warfare. It is predatory, it is brilliant, and it leaves Red Bull completely paralysed, scrambling to promote junior engineers into roles they aren't ready for, the Verstappen threat and the exit clause. But here is the most explosive part of this entire leak, what this actually means for Max Verstappen. We all know Max is notoriously loyal to his inner circle. GP isn't just an employee. He's the only man on the grid who can push back against a multi-time world champion's rage and channel it into a race win. They operate like a married couple because that intense friction is exactly what makes Max so fast. Without GP in his ear, the dynamic completely changes. Max doesn't respect just anyone. If Red Bull puts a new voice in his headset, the transition could be brutal. But more importantly, Max has explicitly stated time and time again that his continued presence in Formula One relies heavily on his personal enjoyment of the sport. With the chassis struggling to find grip, the management in shambles, and his closest confidant packing his bags for Woking, that enjoyment is dead. We also know that Jos Verstappen, Max's father, warned months ago that the team was in danger of being torn apart. He was right. Max's contract might technically run until 2028, but in modern F1, contracts are just paper. Verstappen's camp is notorious for weaving performance and personnel-related exit clauses into their deals. If you think this mass exodus won't trigger one of those clauses for Verstappen, you're lying to yourself. The golden goose is looking for the exit, the rot at the top, and the civil war. How did it come to this? How does a dynasty collapse this fast? The blame lies entirely with Red Bull's fractured leadership. Since the passing of co-founder Dietrich Mateschitz, the team has morphed from a ruthless racing machine into a bloated corporate battlefield. Instead of stabilising the ship, the management has been distracted by a brutal civil war. You had Christian Horner fighting to consolidate power. You had Helmut Marko threatening to leave. You had the Thai majority owners clashing with the Austrian side of the boardroom. While the executives were busy fighting over who gets to wear the crown, they completely ignored the fact that their kingdom was burning down. They haven't stopped the bleeding. They've just watched it happen, throwing out PR statements claiming that staff turnover is natural. Losing one or two guys is natural. When your entire technical, sporting and strategic backbone packs up and leaves for your direct rivals within a 12-month window, it's not natural. It is a massive neon sign screaming that the culture inside Milton Keynes is broken beyond repair, the 2026 cliff edge. And if you take away the brains, the strategy and the emotional anchor, what exactly is left of Red Bull racing? The harsh reality is that without Max Verstappen violently outperforming a struggling chassis, they are a midfield team. But the scariest part is what lies ahead. In 2026, the entire rulebook changes. Red Bull is taking the most massive gamble in their history by building their own engines through Red Bull powertrains, partnering with Ford. They're going up against Ferrari, Mercedes and Honda as an independent manufacturer for the first time ever. Doing that requires an ironclad technical team and perfect execution. Instead, they are walking into the biggest regulatory shift of the decade, having just lost the very people who know how to win championships. McLaren didn't just buy an engineer, they bought Red Bull's ultimate demise. The dominoes haven't just started falling, the entire table has been flipped. Zak Brown just proved that you don't need to beat an empire on the track if you can destroy it from the boardroom. The question now isn't if Red Bull will lose the championship, it's whether Max Verstappen is already negotiating his exit. Let me know in the comments if you think Max will pull the ripcord and follow his team out the door. Drop a like if McLaren's ruthless tactics shocked you, and subscribe to the F1 channel to catch the next major paddock leak.